Welcome to Crossing Hands, episode 7. With me is the Magister. Tommy, how you doing today?
Pretty good. Pretty good. How you doing, Uncle?
I'm doing well. I'm sitting here in the dark, which is kind of interesting since I'm in a very brightly lit glass lobby. So the shadows here are kind of
Yeah.
unavoidable at the moment.
Glass lobby. Okay.
Excellent. So can you tell us a bit about your martial arts background? Sort of style or styles, if you have more than one, years practicing, that sort of.
Okay, so I think now I've been practicing for almost 18, 19 years. And I started off with judo, sport judo. You know, there's this division within what you would call judo, right? There's sport judo, and then there's what people call traditional judo.
Yeah.
So I started more with a sport judo background, competitions, training for tournaments. I did that for around 3 years in college. Pretty like strict, regimented. Then after that, that was when my personal sort of exploration of the martial arts really began. And I started martial arts. I was a small fellow, not very heavy. And then even when I did my judo throws, a lot of times, so when we do this sort of like shadow throwing, where you sort of just lift the person up on your back.
Mm-hmm.
And then my core, my legs really didn't have a lot of stability. My muscle structure was not very strong. But through the practice of judo, that's when I started doing some weight training, started getting stronger. And I've moved from that sort of mindset. One thing martial arts has done for me is I've moved from that sort of mindset of seeing myself as a smaller person, as a sort of weaker person, to having significant levels of confidence. I use that word confidence deliberately. The term in my mind is actually relative fearlessness. As I've practiced my martial arts, to where I don't see myself. I've almost forgotten who I was then, and it's like I'm a whole new person. So from judo, I engaged in more soft Japanese arts, right? That's what, again, lots of divisions within the martial arts. I trained under Sensei Novak in Alabama for 2 years in Aikido. Tried not so much Aikijutsu, more like a more traditional Aikido setup, really looking to preserve your opponent. Started getting introduced to weapons, the boken, the jo staff, the bow staff, just slowly adopting, slowly growing, and also continued my judo training under him, and also personal practice. And then I took a bit of a break because I now ran into a traditional judo dojo.
Interesting.
So coming from a sport judo background, now getting into a traditional judo mat, it was a big change. Same techniques, same styles, same conditioning exercises, but totally different culture when it comes to sort of the respect afforded to higher belts, sort of the protocols, the manner of speech, posture became more of a thing, more of now seeing martial arts as a lifestyle, folks trying to and succeeding in embodying the code of Budo, right? Martial arts as a total lifestyle. And it was slightly disorienting for me. I trained in the traditional judo for like a year, and then
Mhm.
I took a break from martial arts, and for around a year, when I came back in, and this is now what I practice. I still consider judo to be my base.
Yeah.
But now I have gone into the more hard styles of karate, of the Japanese styles.
Yeah.
So now karate, uh, a small, and when I say karate, shuri style karate, my chief instructor is Shidoshi Johnny Russell, and we are under Hanshi Robert Bowles. He was taught by Robert Trias. Hanshi Bowles was, Shidoshi was taught by uh, Hanshi Johnny Pachivas. Again, this is all for the benefit of folks that look at this after some time, and also to give respect to folks I'm training it with right now, because they totally changed my view of the martial arts.
Yeah.
And the Shuri style, karate, and Nippon Shorinjin Kempo are the two base styles in our system. But the style is very eclectic, goes in multiple directions. We have sessions where we train Russian Sistema with the Merrill brothers from Tampa, Florida. And the Merrills are trained under folks in Toronto and in Moscow.
Yeah.
So now, not only the martial spirit is more embodied, we're looking more at the applicability, the philosophical themes are now explored. It's not just about kata and sparring, but what it means to actually grow as a person and to develop one's spirit as one interacts with the world, how to be, how to keep the peace, not in a passive way, but to see one's responsibility as a martial artist, not just for oneself, but to realize that it is actually for the good of the larger society, and to understand the risks that come with that kind of attitude. And I would say, to, again, the development of the spirit, it changed my view from martial arts as something being for myself to something that I actually use to develop my mind, my spirit, my emotional control, introduction to Zen precepts and concepts, a lot of time not just spent in practicing forms and conditioning, extremely important, right? I was told you have to keep conditioning yourself. You have to, for when that is the necessary thing, and you also have to learn how to use subtlety and strategy. So, but I think what my martial arts has helped me do is actually just continue refining myself, and not just the outer work, but the inner work. And you have written about the Tao and about other Eastern philosophies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those
The way
things have become
using practice to embody.
important to me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. The using martial practice to embody a life philosophy is something that's come up in pretty much every one of these episodes so far.
Okay.
That may be the unspoken requirement to actually get on here. Is you have to be living living the martial way in your life.
Well,
but I would agree that that's the big benefit of the traditional training is the way it teaches you things that like applications that aren't just martial applications. It teaches you things that are going to help you in the rest of your life, not just the sort of on the mat or in the school or in uniform, things that you can do I think your comment
Yeah.
about the having like a different perception of yourself after practice, that's probably the single biggest the single biggest general benefit of studying any martial art is you get that, whatever you thought of yourself before, now you see yourself as somebody capable, somebody strong, somebody who can overcome, through perseverance, which is always excellent. And then there's all the individual benefits, like a specific style, a specific martial art, and a specific sub-style of a martial art will give you. I think people overlook that sort of thing a lot in picking
Yes.
martial arts to pursue.
What you said is just so true, right? The 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 karate, the judo, they have practice, right? Trying to apply what we do to reality, to self-defense situations. Karate sparring, apart from Kyokushin, not many other styles do full contact. We have that option within our training to do a sort of mix of hard and soft, full contact, around once a year in levels. So there's the hard and soft, and then there's stuff like the grappling levels, purely soft, so judo and then submission. But that's just once a year. We have that option to train ourselves, test ourselves between ourselves at that level. But Western style boxing gives us that opportunity around once a week, once every 2 weeks, right?
Yeah.
And what you learn about yourself is different from what you learn when you engage in judo or even in a submission match, as compared to Russian Systema, where they spend a hideous amount of time during the sessions that we had. And I don't train Russian Systema all year round, only for a portion of the year.
Yeah.
With physical conditioning through pain, right? With folks actually striking you.
Yeah.
And that ego has to go away, right? When you're getting hit in the diaphragm, full force, and you're being told, compose your breathing, don't break structure.
Yeah.
As I trained Systema, by the second year I trained Systema, I realized the whole point of Systema is to be able to hit without ego.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was such something that no other style had taught me, right? In boxing, there's a lot of ego in striking. So it taught me about my physical limitations.
Yeah.
Karate, we even despite all our study of philosophy and Zen, we could never reach that practical point where the body is actually brought in. And, during physical trials, during grading, of course, yes, you have to suppress your ego as you go through the physical trials. And in some cases, yes, there is hard sparring and focusing into the body.
Yeah.
But Systema is deliberate in having a series of exercises where someone is actually just trying to break it down physically, and it's clear you can't get, if you get angry, that's when you fail.
Yeah.
You don't fail when you fall down on the floor and start rolling around screaming in pain.
Yeah.
That's not when you fail. You fail when you get angry. You fail when you get fearful. And that's the beauty of different styles, different systems, giving you different components sort of in the mental and emotional space that you mentioned there.
Yeah, I deliberately do that with my students after a while, because in the Chinese styles, it's definitely become, I've made this joke a lot, just people in silk pajamas, satin suits with sparkly sequins and whatnot, just doing gymnastics floor exercise, basically. There's a lot of this, people with a little bit of a gut and a double chin. Oh, I've evolved beyond sparring. No, you haven't. It's a martial art. If you aren't,
Yeah.
you know, if you're not at least paying lip service to, you know, face punches, you know, and groin kicks, then you're really not, there's nothing martial about what you're doing. So I like to kind of take people, and depending on, you know, Yoga Midnight, Matt, when I started teaching him, he was comfortable, you know, more comfortable than I'm used to dealing with. So he was like, all right, yeah, I'll, you know, whatever you say, we'll do. So I didn't make him fight me basically for a little bit. But when somebody comes in scared, like, whoa, I'm nervous about getting hurt. Well, we have to fight right now.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't know how. Yeah, that's fine. Your first lesson is you're going to learn how to take a beating. So put them up.
Yeah.
I try to, let's see. One of the things that drew me to Bagwajang beyond just the whole novelty of the circle walk practice, when I learned about their teaching method, I really liked the idea of finding somebody's limits physically and psychologically, and then forcing them to go past the psychological limits.
Yes.
You know, it's just, if your problem is you're skittish, right, we're going to get you over that fast. You know, if your problem is you can't do a full split, all right, we're going to work within the limits of your physique.
Yes.
We're going to take you just a little bit further than where you think you can go. You know, that's more measured and incremental physically, but with the psychological stuff, it's like, look, if you're afraid of getting punched in the face, we're going to have you stand here, have somebody else stand. So that full extension is about this far away from the you know, from your nose, and just work on that. Just
and they just and it's one of the things that in boxing, in Western style boxing, that I also train. You'll be surprised. A lot of people come in and they're like, I've never been hit before.
Yeah.
And I'm talking mid-20s, late 20s, or early 30s.
Yeah.
And I tell them, well, I guess today is your lucky day.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I mean, I'm in my early 40s, and I managed to grow up, you know, with kids still fighting, and in, you know, as a teenager, people getting into fights at school and in the street and stuff. But I realized that there are a lot of people, even in my generation, nobody was stopping us from fighting, but, you know, most of us have not, like you said, never been hit before, face, stomach, anything. It's just, it seems strange to me, and not because I love the martial arts, which is sort of a, what do you mean you never gotten? How do you, you know, that, as much as I don't want to give credit to that movie Fight Club, but that idea that's in that movie, like, how do you know if you've never fought, you know?
Yes. It's something that, apart from my training, I think this is something that, and I think we mentioned it in the Kung Fu discussion group before, how do you work your martial art to be effective and to, you know, outside of, in a peaceful society, because this is a season of relative peace in the Western world.
Yeah.
Not necessarily in other places, right? There are badlands all over the world where people, in one way or the other, are compelled to develop and exhibit their martial skill.
Yeah.
Right. Even folks in the military that have served in Afghanistan, that have done house clearings, their hand to hand is a part of modern warfare.
Yeah.
But
never going to go away.
Never going to go away. No matter how much standoff capability improves, you know, nobody wins wars by bombing the crap out of a place. Eventually, somebody has to go in on ground carrying some sort of ballistic weapon and engage the enemy at close quarters, and sometimes get really close. But for folks that are stateside, right, despite the threats that people perceive, the chances of getting beaten by a shark right now, let's not go into the numbers, but still, it hasn't reached. It's not at a scale where we are a martial society in the United States. We are relatively peaceful, and that has allowed a lot of philosophies that would not exist in a society that is in conflict to rise, right?
Yeah.
And that is a good thing, because in times of peace, that's when you can grow your garden, sort of engage in writing, engage in what we're engaging in right now, right? Creating videos, have philosophical discussions. In times of war, well, you don't really have the opportunity to do that, unfortunately. What does the Tao say? The war horses will be breeding in the suburbs when the Tao is lost. So it's how to practice and to make one's martial art effective now is something that I think we as martial artists just need to be conscious of, right? We probably will never have the opportunity to do it, but we just have to be conscious that we probably don't know the full efficacy or weaknesses or gaps in our system or in our personal training, but we can continue training. That's as long as our mind is in the right place. If a situation occurs, which they do, sometimes even in peaceful societies, people do get into altercations one way or the other.
Yeah.
You can properly assess, diffuse, walk away, or handle the situation as needed.
Yeah, that Japanese martial arts saying comes to mind. Better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. It's all about just being prepared. And I see a lot of people, not so much now. I've moved from Boston to Ohio in the last year and a half. So there are more people paying lip service to like a prepared mindset. But it's the same sort of arrogance that I was seeing back home. In Boston, people had this idea, violence doesn't happen here. And I kind of look at them like you clearly didn't grow up here, because I got punched in the face every day for like 10 years growing up here. And now out here, people have guns. They're like, well, nothing's going to happen. I've got my rifle. It's like, yeah, you've got your rifle in a safe in the garage, and you're 5 miles from your house right now. Like, if something goes down now, what are you going to do?
Yep.
Bullet sponges are great in video games, but not in real life. And I see a lot of bullet sponges out here around me.
Yeah, we have to be real, right? A lot of folks, younger, older, a lot of their experience of violence has become role-playing games. Yeah. Now, this does impact the mind. If we read Grossman's work on combat and on killing, where he talks about human beings and our conditioning on how to sort of take another man's life, but still, the shock, the physical shock that combat brings, that adrenaline, that tension that drains your body, if you're unused to it, that tension of the body that drains your body of energy. Folks haven't experienced it. And again, it's a time of relative peace in the United States. And again, it's a good thing. But at the end of the day, I have to remind myself, the mental space is the most important thing, because sometimes you might just face a situation and realize that the only thing I can do in this situation is maybe hopefully die a good death. And
people don't realize that,
and just that is the martial art at that time. Of course you want to do everything within and past your limit to push past that, but you have to accept it, that there is a point you might actually just have to go. And like the Akagure said, right, you every day meditate on your death, meditate on it in different ways, by accidents, by murder, by decapitation.
Yeah.
Just think on it, meditate on it every day, and basically be at peace at it. I mean, the first chapter spoke about you must always wear clean underwear, for you don't know, perhaps today is the day you will die.
Yeah. Yeah. There's that. Yeah. There's so much there in what you've just said.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah, the acceptance part. Martial arts, non-martial arts. That is a general feature of at least American society right now. A lot of places I see, honestly, but you know, keeping it in house. Yeah, definitely here in the U.S. for all this talk of danger and violence. There are some people that honestly believe we're on the verge of another civil war here. For them to have actually considered their own mortality.
Yeah.
Like, not at all. Like, to a tiny amount, or not at all. You're sitting here talking about going to war with people over who they voted for in an election, but it never occurred to you that you could die in that situation.
Yeah.
It's
that you could die, that loved ones could die.
Yeah.
Loved ones could die, neighbors could die. A very cavalier attitude to violence and death.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's what comes when you have, here we are, we're about to raise the second generation in a row that has never personally experienced violence in their childhood, teen years. I've realized, like I said, that when I was growing up, most of Generation X, they weren't doing anything. They weren't getting into fights. They weren't running from the cops. They weren't, gang violence was an issue in certain places, but not everywhere.
In certain places. Yeah, but not everywhere. Not in most of even middle America, right? Yeah. Even just wasn't happening. It's not just the life that a lot of people. There are people that have gone through that life, right?
They're the ones who are willing to talk about.
Yeah, exactly. But a lot of the people that are live action role playing, quote unquote, civil war. Yeah. They couldn't fight their way past someone half their size that is extremely motivated to take them down.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's been my my number one experience in the security world is since I was probably 26, 27, I've moved away from that sort of confrontational, combative type of security and more into just what I'm doing now. I'm hanging out in an office building alone. My longest term job was 10 years working in an art museum. So I kind of wanted to get away from having to actually put my hands on grimy people and have them put their hands on me. But I find the more peaceful security sites are the ones where people try to get their way by threatening violence. So I've had a lot of different variations of a conversation that basically goes, please don't do that, I say. And the goofball will be like, well, what if I kick your ass? That would make me extremely happy. I would love to see you try to do that.
I mean, then you can finally test your kung fu.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I mean, that's why I got into security was, I learned my first style was Ba Fan Chuan, mostly called Fanzi Chuan nowadays. And I was like, I think I want to use this.
Exactly.
We should go get into a fight, guys.
I don't think people realize that as the martial arts, as you train more, the focus becomes more on keeping the peace.
Yeah.
And actually not demonstrating the art. But that there is always a component of the martial artist that wants to use the art. Right?
Yeah. If you're not fighting strangers, you should at least be fighting with your friends. Yeah. Just as like one of my best friends, is a guy named Paul. He learned karate growing up, in the church he was a part of growing up. So when I got sick, and I started losing weight, I started like having periods of being bedridden. He was as upset as I was, because he was like, "Oh man, you're the only one that's worth sparring. Like, you got to get your strength back so we can go. And now that I'm back up to normal weight, you know, when I talk to him, he's like, oh, the old Brad is back, huh? Well, I'm going to come out to Ohio and we're going to fight again. I was like, yeah, dude, let's do it. Come on.
Exactly. You know,
I'm surrounded by people who love football but couldn't run a yard. You know, I'm surrounded by gang members, but like if you raise your hand like this, they kind of do.
yeah, yeah. The violence is a state of mind.
Yeah.
And it just tells us our mental state is our real weapon. The training we do they're just the tools that we use to advance our mind in a martial way.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are folks that would not even need to threaten with violence. Again, I think this is something we talked about in the discussion group is sometimes your posture, your ambience, you know, if I could use the word, the aura that you project, the presence, what police call command presence,
yeah,
even without speaking, can be more threatening.
Yeah.
Than,
yeah, those
verbiage.
Yeah, the mindset types, you know, telling you to use your body language to kind of predispose people to behave certain ways toward you. That's 100% spot on. And that's something that I love about the martial arts, that, you know, you don't want to fight, or maybe you're actually not that good. All right, well, all you have to do is you just have to learn how to use that body language so that you give, you know, in a high crime area, you want to have the body language that says you are not a victim. You want to give that impression of capability. You don't necessarily need to be able to fight off 15 guys by yourself, but you need at least one guy to realize, like, hey, this is going to be more trouble than it's worth. Move on to the next one.
Posturing is part of combat. Even in the animal world, the animals will first posture to one another.
Yeah.
To scare the other before they engage in combat, because the cost of combat is so high.
Yeah.
Why engage in it if you can demonstrate that, hey, I have the capacity to hurt you, so let's not just have this fight.
Yeah.
Right. So the posturing component is real. We don't want to engage. I mean, it would be weakness in certain regards unless one is a total bandit, right? And hopefully we are not the bad guys. You know, we're not looking to physically keep engaging people and just seeking to test our martial arts in such a way that, irregardless of the harm that happens to other people. So that posturing, even against folks that might be looking to harm, we want to give that impression that we and those around us are protected. You can't come here right now.
Yeah, that's the that sort of spiritual strength, the restraint aspect, is one of the big components of a traditional martial arts lifestyle. You know, living the martial way. You have the capability to kill, but you learn. There's a saying, I forget where I heard this, but killing is easy, to not kill is difficult. That's something that a lot of people who live that self-identified weakness that's so widespread nowadays. You know, people who identify as weak, identify as powerless. They don't realize that, you know, you spend a month doing 20 push-ups every day. At the end of the month, you're going to feel a lot more of that power that you never realized you had. So the big benefit is teaching, you know, especially with younger guys. You know, I try to make it clear to them, like, look, you feel stronger now than you've ever felt before, but that's just relative to your own frame of reference. You know, you feel stronger than the old you, but you might still be weak now, so don't get carried away. That's why
don't get carried away.
One benefit of learning restraint is you also protect yourself by not getting reckless with these challenges.
You know, and martial arts will quickly humble one, right? In judo, you get to a mat very quickly. You realize, well, I could get taken down as easily as that, because there are a bunch of folks that have been there for a long time. They're really good at what they do. Even as you get better and you start taking other people down,
Yeah.
perhaps submitting them, you still know. And the whole judo is actually ritualized combat.
Yeah.
Right? The ippon is supposed to be a death blow.
Yeah.
It's supposed to simulate the death of the opponent, and the opponent submitting is an acceptance of death.
Yeah.
So it has its own component of trying to develop the martial mind, and hence develop humility in the individual, saying, hey, I may think I'm strong, but there are levels to this.
Yeah.
And I should thereby act accordingly and not go around thinking that, yeah, I'm untouchable, I'm invincible.
Yeah.
It's just not true.
Yeah.
It's just not true. Some 18-year-old could come and,
yeah,
and beat you, and you'd be like, oh, okay.
When I was 18, I studied Taekwondo for a summer. The first time we sparred, they put me up against this little redheaded woman. She was a full foot shorter than me. This woman was about 5 foot, 5'2". I'm 6'3". You know, I wasn't disrespectful, but I definitely did not have my guard up. And this tiny woman kicked me directly in the chin and sent me flying through the air. I remember laying on my back, looking up at the ceiling like, okay, all right. I understand now, you know, and the teacher was like, you know, it's like, I wasn't arrogant. It wasn't like I needed an ass kicking, but
yeah,
the tradition was everybody gets an ass kicking first day. So.
I had a student like 2 years ago. He went into the military, Ranger, Airborne tab, straight in, like, you know, from high school to Ranger school and Airborne school. Big lad, 6'2", 210 pounds, you know, works in the gym, muscle. Before he came into boxing, he used to street fight, you know. So he had that mindset, you know, rough upbringing.
Yeah.
And he always wanted to get into the ring. Like, was always in a hurry to, you know, take the training wheels off, coach. I want a full sparring session. And I kept telling him, you're not ready, because I knew that he was still sparring off emotion quite a bit and bringing a lot of that rage, which is a good thing, right? And that rage is now being channeled in the armed forces. But I knew in the ring at that time, he hadn't finished channeling it.
Yeah.
But he kept insisting. So I said, okay, you know, no problem. Come in. Next class, we're going to spar. You're going to spar against so-and-so. And so-and-so, nicknamed Sweet Pea, he outweighed Sweet Pea by 60 pounds. Like, I'm not even joking.
Yeah.
He outweighed Sweet Pea was 6 inches shorter than him. And I told James Sweet Pea then that, hey, don't hurt him. I was telling the small guy.
Yeah.
Don't hit him too hard in the face, you know. Just make
him work.
Yeah, just make him work. There's a chance he'll really, really try and hurt you. So just keep your guard up, defense move. But once he gets to a certain stage, stick him in the body, a couple of good ones, just to slow him down.
Yeah.
And guy comes out the corner, is wailing on this guy. This guy keeps his guard up, is circling the ring. Decides, okay, fine, it's time for me to make a stand. Boom. Straight right to the gut.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. 210-pound guy is standing there in shock.
Yeah.
Right? Because his diaphragm is contracted. You know the biology.
Yeah.
It's frozen up, tight as enough.
Yeah.
No air's coming in, right? You can feel it. Boom, down on one knee. Yeah. I'm like, hey, dude, you're going to be able to get up? He's like, he can't believe it, because he brought his friends because he thought that it was going to be a demonstration of his awesome power. Like,
well, I mean, it was, you know, I think most guys in a situation like that the first time probably would have gone all the way down. So the fact that he only took one knee, took
one knee. So
pretty good.
He got back up. I said, hey, pace yourself. So he boxed. He was still recovering.
Yeah.
He had to take more than a minute to recover, go into the bathroom, risk his face. Said, I don't know what happened. I'm like, get in there, pace yourself. This is not a rush. Let's do 3 rounds. goes in, tries to wail on the guy again. Dude drops down again, straight right to the gut. That was it. That was the end of the sparring session. You couldn't get up. He was like, I don't know what happened. I'm like, well, you need to step it down. You're not there yet. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
And you know, that's it. We're all gonna get that humble feeling. We're all gonna get, and the more you push it, the more your instructor has to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
but I mean, that's a valuable lesson to learn, you know, it's better to learn in a controlled setting that strength is not power. Because there are a lot of, especially young guys, they think, you know, oh, I can do this. I can work for 10 hours straight. I can bench press twice my body weight. Yeah, that's great. That's not power though. That's small women, old men, you know, you don't need to be big to have power. You just need to train to have power.
I mean, I was humbled recently. Went for a seminar and we were doing some grappling, just demo. It wasn't submission, just demo. And there was this little lady, a foot shorter than me, a brunette, and she kept saying, I don't think I got this chokehold. I don't think I got this chokehold. And she kept fiddling with my carotid with the chokehold, right?
Yeah.
And I was the big lunk just sitting there taking it, right? Thinking to myself, oh, you know, I'm just helping her with her training and everything. And she finishes, she gets it 5, 7, 10 attempts later. I don't know. I'm like, okay, fine, you got to tap out. And she goes, okay. I stand up. My grappling instructor, because he was there, we went as a group, my dojo, multiple dojos in there. My grappling instructor comes up and said, "Are you okay?" I'm like, what? He said, "You look kind of funny." You know? I said, my chief instructor comes up to me and he's like, "Someday you don't look so good." Like, "Tommy, you don't look so good," you know? And I was like, yeah. Then he was like, "You let that little lady play with your carotid a little bit too long.
Yeah.
What color spots are you seeing?" And I said, "White spots." It was like, "Yeah, class is over for you. Get out of here." You know?
That's great.
And I was like, look at me, like, come on, think. You know how dangerous this thing is, and even within a training situation, you let it go too far. And I know how long it takes. I know the biology of how much oxygen you need in your brain and how long it can be cut off before you start getting into unconsciousness and perhaps into even darker regions. And I still underrated someone just because of her size and demeanor. You know?
Yeah.
So
well,
yeah,
weak points are still weak points. No, they don't need to be big to take advantage of a nice.
Yeah, they can even use their weakness as a subtlety to destroy their opponents, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that is down.
Yeah, I had a friend of mine was in like a really, I'm gonna say a toxic relationship, but it wasn't too bad. It was just sort of like a neat kind of you know, low grade manipulative type of girl he was with, and you know, the rest of us tried to convince him, look, this chick is awful. She's always like, it's not like she's trying to control you, but she just refuses to do things for herself. She's having you come over and do stuff like open the peanut butter. Like, you know, this is ridiculous. Your life is only going to get worse. You're completely stressed out now. It's only going to get worse. He didn't want to hear it. So the one day a few of us are hanging out, getting ready to have a, you know, martial arts, you know, group get together. One guy's like, just puts his hands up like floppy Tyrannosaurus hands. He's like, "So how do you deal with her weakness, Kung Fu?" This guy's eyes got real big, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, she has weakness Kung Fu." And I was like, "And her weakness Kung Fu is much, much better than your normal people Kung Fu." And he's like, I think I need to take care of this. I'm like, yeah, you thought because this was a 90-pound, you know, 5'4" girl that you know you had this under control. This chick's got you, you know, she's got you on a leash.
The mind is the weapon. The body is just the way we express it. And a 90-pound woman can have a much stronger, sharper mind than a man that is 230 pounds of and 10% body fat.
Yeah.
And most of the time, they do.
Yeah. Well, I
Right?
mean, when you have to think strategically because you're at a physical disadvantage all the time, you know,
Exactly.
sort of practice is going to beat some big goof every time.
Yeah, the software will always defeat the hardware, especially if the hardware doesn't even regard the software as being real, as being a real threat.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're almost at a disadvantage with your hard skill actually, because you depend on it so much. You
Yeah.
don't even know the terrain that you are fighting in. It's a psychological and emotional.
Yeah. Yeah. I do find that there's a lot of people who don't ever take the time to try and understand the weak points or the inherent disadvantages to whatever style they've chosen. You know, people are always, you know, the style wars, the
My kung
partisans.
fu style is better than yours.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, my style. Listen, no. It's like, all right, but what can't you
My
do?
style is MMA.
Yeah, or exactly. Yeah, the MMA. Oh, I'm a mixed martial artist. You know, eye roll. It's like all martial arts are mixed, but whatever. Won't you this and that? I'll take you to the ground. And what if that doesn't work on me? I'm bigger than you. I can throw punches. What if you can't take me down? Your only advantage would be completely neutralized, and then you would be on my turf.
Yeah.
And as I've said to a couple of people, you know, with us bigger guys, the safest place to be is, you know, about elbow range or closer. You want to be as close as possible, which seems counterintuitive to a lot of people. If you're standing way out there, I don't need to use my kung fu. I can just use physics and drop a hammer right on you, and that's it. So,
Yep.
trying to
Yeah,
get close.
distance is the enemy. My chief instructor tells us all the time.
Yeah.
Right, when he's going through jiu-jitsu drills, distance is the enemy. You want to marry the opponent's limbs. You want to marry the opponent. You want them to be as close as possible. Even on the ground, distance is the enemy. Put your center on their center.
Yeah.
Put them down way more. Distance is the enemy. Yeah, people don't realize it's counterintuitive. The best place to be is pretty much, within that trapping range, grappling range, you know.
Yeah.
So
that's what I mean. That's all these MMA wannabe guys that it does seem lost on them. It's like, yeah, that only works because there are reasons why it works. They do seem counterintuitive to normals, you know, to the civilian types. But once you get into the world of fighting, you need to understand. You can't have just one. You know, you can't be one dimensional. You can't just have one technique.
Because if I'm a standoff guy, right? If I'm a taekwondo guy or sort of like a high flying, more lower body based karate guy, and I'm trying to project that force and keep you in kicking range or in fencing range, and you deceive me and you enter into trapping range, what do I do? Right?
Yeah, that's the position that I think a lot of people find themselves in is, you know, that's a rhetorical in our discussion right now. What do you do in that situation? But a lot of people say it and they're like, oh, you see those eyes glaze over. They really don't. They don't have a plan for what happens if plan A doesn't work. There is no B, C, D, E, which is a shame. You know, I need to definitely work on my jiu-jitsu defenses. You know, having been underweight for so long, now I feel like anybody with skill is probably, if they get past the elbows, I'm probably in a lot of trouble. But it's
even kung fu, right, has, because at the end of the day, whether we Japanese style practitioners want to admit it or not, there's a lot of at the bare minimum synthesis between kung fu styles and Japanese styles, and some outright are just descendants of the Chinese styles. There are, from what I understand, even most grappling styles they came from China.
Yeah, the most famous Chinese like grappling oriented style is it's called like the lower basin skill or dog boxing, because there's a lot of like you'll see like repeated like ground tumbling basically. Like
Okay.
they'll get low, they'll do like a low shoulder roll, they'll spend time on their back. They have what we would put in as like Brazilian jiu-jitsu type techniques nowadays. There's a lot of that,
Yes.
but there's also a good mixture of kicks at all range, not just like a high, medium, low range, but also if you're laying on your back, there's still some particular mechanics for kicking there. They have stuff like that. Most martial arts in China will have a little bit of chin na, the joint locks. You gotta have.
Yeah, the joint. Yeah.
It's such an easy skill to pick up that there are more people that don't have at least a basic proficiency with it is kind of strange to me. And I understand, like, my own teacher loves chin na the most. That's his favorite part of martial arts. So having gone to a YMAA school, I'm in a better position than a lot of people. When you train with Dr. Yang, you get good at joint locks, whether you like them or not. But there are people that I've met.
Things that gets a horrible. Sorry, what did you say?
I was just saying I've met people that have practiced martial arts as long as I have or longer, Chinese styles, and they can pull off an arm bar, like a WWF arm bar, because even little kids do that instinctively.
Yes.
Try to get them to put on like an upward turning on the shoulder or the elbow, try to get them to do a small wrap hand, and they're just completely useless. What do you mean? It's impossible. It's not impossible. It is so simple. If you've ever played with a pair of scissors, you should know how to do most of this stuff, because it's literally just hinge joints and rotation.
It's one of the things that gets really useful in grappling range that gets a really terrible rap, because most people have only seen it demonstrated in striking range, is pressure points.
Yeah.
In grappling range, pressure points become more an object of painful manipulation as opposed to any esoteric, or one-time knockout. But because most of what we know or what people I've ever heard about pressure points, and I won't mention his name, was taught by a guy that was talking about, one-touch knockouts, and on a moving target, that can be something. In boxing, right? We have one-touch knockouts. That's just real talk, right?
Yeah.
But it takes a lot of strategy to sort of set up that kind of strike. But once you're in grappling range, if you have your hands on the person, you can apply using different grips, using different hand positions. You can apply significant pressure on nerve clusters all over the body to make the person move into position. And it's, again, it just speaks to, and I actually saw in some text somewhere something called 1,000 Bs, where they said actually in some Chinese styles, pressure points are actually taught in grappling, right? Yeah. And that's how it's transitioned to Kyushu Jitsu, to start manipulating pressure points in Japanese style grappling.
So going back to the chin na, this ties in. Most people think of joint locks as just breaking a joint or damaging a joint, breaking the elbow or damaging the tendons in the wrist or something like that. That's that's low level, that's not even really the basic level, because you should be able to get somebody in one of these locks, and for a regular person, just putting the lock on should be enough to kind of incapacitate them with pain. If there's somebody that pain doesn't really work on because they're a psychopath or they've got a high tolerance for pain naturally, or they're double jointed, then you should be able to apply it in a way that's going to what they call lock the chain of movement. So you should be able to get a wrist lock that's going to position the rest of the joints, the elbow joint, the shoulder joint, that's going to neutralize any sort of ability.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, you can also start to get into what you were just saying, a more advanced level, where when you set the lock up, you should be able to apply it so that you're in a position where if they can muscle their way out of it because of the size, or if they have enough skill that they know how to mechanically neutralize your grip, you should be in a position to just catch a nerve cluster, catch a tendon, get one spot, one or two fingers, and just kind of pin it in place, as it were. Keep them from getting out.
Yep.
So it's not. I actually, Jordan Castles and I, in the Twitter DMs just a couple of days ago, we were talking. I made a comment about cavity press, and he's like, "Wait, that's real?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it's all real. All that stuff. It's real. It's just we've had 30 years of people thinking that it's all Dragon Ball Z style. It's not. I wrote something about this a few months ago. Empty Force. Empty Force isn't a Dragon Ball Z power blast. It's taking advantage of the deliberately cultivated intuition that another martial artist has. It won't work on an amateur, but it'll work on somebody who's trained. It won't work on a beginner, but it'll work on somebody who has experience, because you're taking
because you have a reflex, a conditioned response to certain moves. So when you make that move, his conditioning compels him to make another move.
So it's stuff like that. Like, it's just because the early days of the internet, there were certain individuals, they sold books all through the 80s under fake Japanese ninja pseudonyms. And then, YouTube comes out and you realize it's just some 140-pound white guy from the Midwest. That kind of stuff. This guy's a fraud, but that doesn't mean the things that he claimed aren't real in a way you don't expect.
I mean, even verbal projection. One can speak fear into another person that can be debilitating.
Yeah, the voice from Dune, that's real. You just have to know how to do it.
Yeah, you can speak anxiety just like you can speak confidence, and you can speak, you can entreat people to do better. Yeah. You can break them down without touching them. I'm not even talking about while in the midst of combat, but those speech, like you were speaking earlier about 90-pound females, right?
Yeah.
Verbally inducing people to do things that they want, sometimes to their own detriment. Verbally causing people to fall sick.
Yeah.
Right? Just through verbal commands and auto-suggestion, and next thing the person actually believes it, like a reverse placebo effect. Yeah. Immune system gets suppressed, and bye-bye. You healed yourself through the power of Kung Fu. Some people can make themselves sick.
Yeah. Most people I know that are sick are like that. I've got a couple of relatives that have diabetes, but for most of my cousins that are, they haven't gotten to the point of identifying as disabled yet, but they will in the next couple of years, because they've invested their whole identity as an adult in this self-image of weakness, incapability, ineffectiveness, powerlessness. Yeah, their weakness, Kung Fu, is very, very strong, and nobody's going to break it.
No, and you can't break it. You can't bring them out of it. They are very well practiced in weakness Kung Fu. Yeah. And we are now, again, in a peaceful society. Weakness is now celebrated.
Yeah, and it's a shame.
Celebrated.
That ties right back in with all these people. Fat torsos, skinny limbs, talking about a civil war. It's not going to go well. It's not a good idea, and over something as petty as politics.
No, can you imagine that? Like,
Well, at least the people who want to have religious wars, at least,
Yeah, at least they
you can
believe.
respect religious conviction, but just,
Yeah.
you don't like this guy or you don't like this other one over. That's bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. People that actually have a certain interpretation of their faith system that leads them to believe that heretics must be killed. At least they're coming from a place of devout belief.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a type of genuineness you can respect.
Yes, they are true believers. They are not people looking at things as if it's a reality TV show where the contestants are like, so I'm mad.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get in my feelings. It's I'm sorry, but I always tell folks, are you going to live through this? If the answer is yes, your concern level should drop significantly.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Right? If it's not going to kill you, then we don't have anything to really be concerned about, because everything from there is fixable. Because there's nothing permanent that is going to happen. We are going to be good if it's an economic or social or psychological or emotional. We're going to get through it. That's not a problem. We'll be fine.
Oh, yeah. We need to have a civil war. It's like, there's going to be no internet if we do that, right?
I mean, you got to cut
You're not going to be able to live stream this. You're not going to be able to post pics of the front to Instagram. It's not going to work like that. You know that, right?
Yeah, folks do not understand command and control, communication lines, supply lines, logistics.
Yeah.
Water, sanitation.
People who can't do one chin up, can't feed themselves a proper meal, and can't clean their apartment are going to somehow overthrow the U.S. government, take over the world.
Don't know field craft. We can go on and on and on. This. Yeah. It would be an unconscionable situation, and it will not happen, God willing. But it's interesting to see people say, "Oh, the only choice we have is violence." Excuse you.
Yeah.
I'm not participating in this exercise.
Right. Yeah, that's clear. I mean, well, that's a go-to response for people that they've never experienced violence. I talk to my students about how body knowledge is important. You need to feel like what I'm talking about, this sort of structural thing or this energetic thing, you need to feel this in your body. And then once you have that, you won't need me to talk you into it anymore. You'll be able to kind of bring this out in yourself. Really appreciating the implications and the effects of violence. You need body knowledge for that. You need, again, something we started off with, one of the big benefits of traditional martial arts training is you're going to get hit and then have somebody basically lean in and tell you you're not allowed to get angry over this because this is what you wanted, remember? This was the idea.
This is the idea.
All these people that don't believe in violence but want to shoot people for who they voted for. We should give them a little taste, and I'm not advocating.
They need to engage in martial arts. A couple of sparring sessions, a couple of grappling sessions, they'll be okay.
Yeah, pacifism will come back in popularity. It'll come back into mainstream acceptance.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I had one roommate a few years ago. Very much a loudmouth with political opinions. One of those identity politics types. Oh, I'm this. It's like it takes like 10 minutes to hear this woman talk about her, her various group identifications. One day, she's like, well, I'm still a socialist. Like, you realize that among the first 10 groups of people that get lined up to be shot under socialism, you're like 6 of those, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I get to live because I can at least do manual labor. I grew up poor, so I'm not like in danger of going down for being a member of the gentry or whatever. I'm not bourgeois, but I was like, you're from a rich suburb. You got a useless college.
Yeah.
Feminists, please, they liquidate feminists under socialism. You don't seem to appreciate that. If you win, you die.
Yeah, I mean, my glasses would make me a target. Oh, he's a bourgeois intellectual.
Now, this girl too had the big, like the goofy, like 70, you know, like a third of her face are covered by the glasses. Why would I? Socialism is the future. Shut up. You know.
We have some people that live in gentrified areas, and you know this in the Midwest, they buy $300,000-$400,000 houses and former former ghettos, and then they start talking about, oh, we have to preserve the culture of the neighborhood. Like, your father bought you the house.
Yeah.
You drive a Mini Countryman.
Right.
Like, what are you talking about? What do you know about the struggle?
Yeah, right. The culture of the neighborhood is stealing your hubcaps, selling your kids weed.
I mean, if you got robbed day after tomorrow, you know, you'll be up in arms, right? People that actually lived there back in the day, that's what they had to go through every other day.
Yeah, that old joke. That old joke. A liberal is a conservative that hasn't been mugged yet.
They would believe in the Second Amendment by the time they get mugged a couple of times, right? It's all good.
I know. It's so funny.
Oh. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Go ahead. I was just gonna say, you know, I worked at a museum for about 10 years. Alex Mako from the discussion group. He was in the U.S. Marines before, you know, he was discharged after being injured. Came to work at the museum, and he comes in fresh from the Marine Corps, so he's got that haircut, you know, and practically shaven, you know, and he comes in, they're looking at him like, because he has the military body language. So some of these soft goofballs, they start rumors about him. This guy's going to shoot us all. One of the more troublemakers asked him, like, what do you think of guns? He's like, what do you mean? What do I think of guns? What? Are you for guns? He's like, yeah, whatever. Like, guns are fine. Okay, whatever, you know. They start spreading these rumors about the poor guy. Oh, he's going to do this. He's going to do that. So I told them one day, I'm like, look, you're in more danger standing next to me than you will ever be from him. Like, if somebody's going to come in here and fuck people up, it's not going to be him. He believes in duty. He thinks the strong have a duty to protect the weak. I think the weak are insects that I should crush, and you're weak. So what's up?
Nietzsche.
Like, he is the only European philosopher that I like is Nietzsche. Yeah, I completely own that.
That's him right now. That's him right there.
I'm completely
I saw him come out.
Hey, well, I mean, I had a fatal illness and didn't die. So, all right, well, I must be fit then. I'm completely comfortable with that world.
Yep.
The looks of confusion. Guns are bad. Yeah, but some of us don't need guns to be violent. Some of us just are violent.
Exactly. And you know, I think art helps us sometimes. So there's this series on Netflix, I think it's called Baku, and it's about, you know, a couple of guys that I hear about this guy that wins this underground fighting tournament, and then they come, and you know, they come from all over the world to find him and fight him and defeat him. And they highlight that, number one, they're actually looking for a worthy challenger, someone to actually practice their Kung Fu on. Yeah. And the second thing, one of the things that they keep emphasizing is that the darkness, when you go on the dark path of the martial arts, is when you use your martial arts and you sort of want to exhibit all that rage and violence to dominate another person, as opposed to using it as a tool of personal refinement. I think
Yeah, I enjoy the if you're familiar with history's strongest disciple, Kenichi, or Kenichi the
Kanichi?
mightiest disciple. Yeah, there's a couple of different factions in the world of martial arts in that manga. The people who think that martial arts are for self-protection, the people who
Yes.
think that martial arts are for killing enemies. That's sort
Yes.
of the main conflict at first, but as it goes on, you realize that there's a third faction, and they're the real enemy. They're the real bad guys. It's the demonic path, the people who have just gone completely insane and fallen off into martial arts madness, as they call it a couple of times, which is a great concept. But
Mm.
that's exactly what you were just saying. There are people who they get lost in that lust for violence and destruction,
Yes.
and
Yes.
that's a big issue.
And even non-martial artists, right? This is what leads, quote unquote, great leaders and genocidal men
Yeah.
and other human beings that seek to exterminate large groups of people, or bandits that practice at a large scale, nihilists,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They may not understand that the underlying philosophy that they're exhibiting is using their mind to destroy, because they're sort of lost in that darkness.
Yeah.
But that they're still practicing that form of kung fu, that demonic form of kung fu.
Yeah.
They are actually the real enemy. Especially, God help us, someone that's actually aware of his underlying philosophy and
Yeah.
is still practicing it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's there are a lot more of them than people think there are, unfortunately. So it's definitely an issue that should be addressed. And one of the big benefits of a traditional martial art is 8 times out of 10, people will be educated in such a way that that's not really possible. You still get that
So,
1 in 10 person who's just a maniac, and then you get that 1 in 10 person
yes,
who falls down in between.
yes.
But,
And it's something that we are conscious of not only in my school of instruction, but even in the boxing gym, is we sort of have this informal rule. We don't train terrorists. What we're trying to say is we don't train people that will now take the skill that they've learned
yeah,
to try and dominate others,
yeah,
to sort of oppress others. Talking about civil unrest and people sort of live action role playing war.
yeah,
So just a few minutes ago, the power came back on. Right now I'm in West Africa,
yeah,
and we have power cuts.
yeah,
Every now and then, and the backup power kicks in, or if you don't have backup power, you got to sit in there.
yeah.
This is another thing, a scenario in a conflict situation in North America. What will you do when your
Yeah.
neighboring county decides to cut the power lines?
Yeah, right. Yeah. If 80% of your diet is prepared in a microwave, what are you going to do during a full-scale war?
When they cut your power lines, what are you going to do? So,
Yeah.
just illustrations of people's total unpreparedness
Yeah.
for the ramping levels of violence when they think, because they're so unused to it. Such a peaceful society, a time when you should engage in arts and dancing and cooking and relationships, such a great time. People get, I guess the Matrix was right. If things are too good, the people start maybe killing themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, one of the big benefits of, you see all these people, especially in the US, younger people, I want to travel. It's like, do you really though? You just want to go to a small America that's staffed by people that look different than you or have an accent.
Yeah.
If you really go, you can't hate this place outright if you've been to places where they really have it rough.
Yeah.
My parents,
They still want the power. They still want the running water. They still want the indoor plumbing. That's for sure.
that's something they take for granted, but it's not a guarantee. My parents used to host kids from the Chernobyl disaster area that would come to Boston for medical treatment, basically. And this is about 10 years ago, so obviously decades after the nuclear incident, but the effects are still lingering out there. After 2 or 3 years, the group that ran this exchange program, they put together a trip for all the host families so they could go and visit the villages that the kids were coming from. They go visit their kids in their homes. So my parents do this. This is the first time that they'd ever really been outside the United States. They'd gone to Mexico, to those resort towns. They'd gone to a couple of islands in the Caribbean. But, one of their favorite places they had been going to was in the Dominican Republic. And like, they tell me this and like I make the eyebrows. My mom's like, what? I'm like, there's a wall around the resort, isn't there? With machine gun towers, right? And she was like, what do you mean? I was like, you didn't go to the DR. You went to like a little America outpost where people speak with a Dominican accent. So they go to Russia. They go to these villages in Chernobyl. They go to Moscow. She came back like, she's like, I had no idea that,
people live this way.
She didn't get, most of these kids had outhouses still.
Yeah.
So it never occurred to
her. Plumbing has not reached this zip code.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm like, her father is from Canada. I'm like, the town that Papa grew up in, it's like they only got indoor plumbing just around the time I was born. Like, Mexico's right next door. They don't have a whole, there are a lot of people in the world that are not living as comfortable as even the poor people in the U.S. You need to appreciate what you have. I mean, I was lucky.
They want to travel for the tourist experience. They don't want to travel to experience the country.
Yeah. Yeah. What's a week in a resort going to do? You need to spend a month living with the people. Then you can really see how it is, what they're really living like. And
if you've never experienced Montezuma's Revenge, even a mild version in Mexico, have you really been to Mexico?
Yeah, exactly. It's one of the reasons I avoid Mexico. I don't want to.
Exactly.
I don't want to do that.
Oh man.
Well, that and probably the heat. Growing up in New England, I'm not really built for high heat and humidity.
Yeah.
It looks like I get this look on my face like it's the end of the world. I like the cold.
Yeah, I can understand that. If you're from New England, I can understand that the heat will be a challenge. Yeah. No. It's vis-a-vis for a lot of people from tropical countries. They struggle with the cold.
Yeah.
Negative temperatures plus a wind chill. It's like hell.
Oh yeah. That's tough. That was one of the benefits that came from being sick for so long. When I was severely underweight, I started to appreciate what it's like for most people, putting like 3-4 layers on, having, a sweater and the hooded sweatshirt and a winter jacket, still being cold inside. Like, oh man, this is what it's like for you guys. But now I'm back up to weight. I just go out in my sickness Kung Fu hoodie. That's it.
Yeah.
We've already had a couple of days of snow out here, and that's all. It's just that. And it's just like a regular hat. That's all I need. I'm good. I don't even really use gloves yet.
Yeah, some people still freak out over that, though. They see out in the fall jacket and winter, they're like, what are you doing? They don't understand.
Yeah.
Kung Fu can do that, too.
Yeah, it gives you that power to endure the environment.
To enjoy the environment, yep. It gives you that power to enjoy the environment.
I went to Spain and North Africa after college. Spent 6 months in Spain and a month in Morocco. When I came home, like August, I had t-shirt, long sleeve shirt over it, hooded sweatshirt, jeans. My mother's looking at me like, it's 90 degrees Fahrenheit. She's like, why are you dressed like that? I was like, I just came from a place where it was 110 inside in the shade. Like,
relative.
Yeah. Like, this is cold now. Like, it's going to take me a little while to readjust to local weather. But the big, that's actually the most fun thing about, I think, watching certain people experience when they travel. It's not the culture shock. That one's easy to catch, but just seeing people realize that weather is not the same.
Weather is not the same. Dry heat is different from humid heat. You
Yeah.
know, dry cold is different from humid cold, right? I think you have a little post about things to avoid, right? Wetness, dampness, you know, things to avoid if you want to be in good health on a continual basis.
Yeah.
Yeah, all kinds of things out there, all kinds of environmental conditions that one has to protect oneself against. And
Yeah. And it seems, you know, I think a lot of people kind of the reflex is to be like, oh, that's just, you know, that's superstition. It's not superstition. You know, if you're coming from a dry place and you're going to a place with a lot of humidity, you need to be prepared for certain changes. Things are going to happen to your body. You're going to react certain ways. You know, there are things that happen. Um, so there are these YouTube channels,
Mhm.
dermatologists and like ear, nose, and throat specialists.
Yeah.
They have those videos of like people with problems, you know, earwax is like an easy go-to, but
Yeah.
there are more sorts of issues than just that, and a lot of them are triggered by environmental conditions.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yes.
It's not a sign of cleanliness if you've got a lot of earwax. It's a biological response to environmental conditions. You're living in a
It's
place.
trying to protect you from something.
Yeah, you need like there are things like that that people don't realize like it's going to happen. You're normal back home. You go to this place. Well, maybe there's higher humidity where you're from.
Yeah.
You go into
You
a
get
dry.
that congestion, you get that irritation,
Yeah,
you know, all kinds of changes. It affects the bacterial growth that is resident in your throat. Maybe they start proliferating
yeah.
just because you change temperature and humidity. So,
Oh yeah.
um,
Then all the fun with
physiological
elevation.
changes that, yeah, exactly. Physiological changes that occur when you go up or down in elevation. If you go, you know, even if it's not a drastic change, let's say you're not climbing, so you your body doesn't need to protect you. But even just a high elevation, the amount of oxygen you're getting into your system,
Yeah,
if it's too little, you can still have an immune response to it that
yeah,
is not so good. Yeah. So people don't know it's not superstition. Our
yeah,
bodies are machines and they like not change. They don't like change too much.
yeah,
When we get into some change, hence weather changes even at the same locale affect people,
yeah,
and they start falling sick.
yeah. Having actually, when I had the ostomy, that was people couldn't believe that I was basically predicting the weather as far as they were concerned. How can you? I'd be like, oh man, it's gonna rain soon. How can you tell? It's like I've got a hole in my body. When the
Yeah,
atmospheric pressure changes, my ears
the
don't
pressure.
pop.
Yeah.
You see me double over just spontaneously. Like
Whoa! Wow!
that was the worst for real. That was the worst part.
Wow!
The weight loss, you know, comes in second,
Yeah,
and then the
I
fatigue,
understand.
distant third. The worst part is just that humidity, um,
Yeah,
you know, barometric pressure, all that stuff. Any
yeah,
big shift, and I'd be done for about a day. Like I would have to actually take a day to pretty much sleep to
yes.
kind of get rebalanced. So those things, I mean, you see it easily in a sick person, but it affects everybody. You just might not
Yes,
know, you know,
it
maybe you
does.
muscle
To a
through it, but
certain
it's
degree.
still gonna get you.
Yes.
The fun stuff. Teaching people
Excellent.
those things. It's not, you know, um, what the Chinese call feng shui, geomancy. It's not magic power based on
Mm-hmm.
earth dragons and shit. No, it's the wind comes from the west. Are you gonna put
Yeah.
the main entrance to your home on the west side of the building? That would be stupid. You know, you're in this relative position to the sun. You're at this longitude. What are you going to do?
Yes.
If you put this window here, you are going to get blinded all morning, and then you're going to have nothing from 11 o'clock on. Like
Yeah.
very straightforward. All you have to
And
do is
it's going to affect the temperature in your house,
yeah,
the circulation of the air in your house,
yeah,
the humidity in your house,
yeah.
everything.
Waste management, all that stuff gets affected.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I've known a
So
couple of people
many,
who
so
didn't.
many concepts that all come together as one has a better and better understanding of how things work.
Yeah, yeah.
Many
The big advantage that the traditional Chinese, excuse me, type of science has over modern science is that modern science assumes that there's such a thing as closed systems. And the more traditional, not just the Chinese, like a lot of traditional systems, it's always at least a little open-ended, because there is no taking XYZ in isolation from the rest of the world. There is no taking humans in isolation from the rest of the world. There is no taking, one aspect of society. You can't just treat crime as if it doesn't affect.
As if there's nothing else
affected.
There's always noise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Always noise. There's always environmental conditions that will change the state of your current system.
Yeah.
System dynamics is complicated, complex, some will say.
Yeah. Complex. A lot of people complain like, "Oh, I don't want my life to be complicated." It's like, well, it's going to be complex unless you're a vegetable. And even then, it's still going to be complex.
Very true.
Yeah. Well, we've ranged far afield, but that's how these episodes are supposed to go. I wanted this series to be something. Martial arts is the starting point, and I like that we've touched on a lot of things here. Let's see.
Right. This was good.
Yeah. Where can the people find you on the internet?
So my Twitter account is out there at Magister. I think that's where I would say I just tweet. I don't do much else apart from that over there. Long form occasionally, various topics.
Yeah.
Not much combatives, some boxing, but maybe 30% of what I tweet is combatives. The rest, just a variety of topics. I try to keep it curated to make sense and not be something that folks want to go to civil war over. You know what I mean? But
Excellent.
yeah, just trying to make it thoughtful. I think the most important thing is, like you said, there are no closed systems, right? And we have actually gone to a stage with respect to cell phones, right? We are literally pipes, and information is flowing through us, and it's affecting the way we think.
Yeah.
And if our mind is our real weapon, if our minds are dulled, then the tools that we use are almost ineffectual. How can one really know how one goes through the world with clarity if there's a lot of deception, a lot of noise?
Yeah.
So I think just that ability to think clearly for oneself, that's what I try to, that's just what I try to tweet and curate on. So,
Excellent. Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, this has been a good discussion. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate this.
Oh yeah, that's you joining your Twitter account at that time. Following you at that time was a good step for me. I've learned a lot about Bagwazang and the other internal systems. It was something that I knew almost nothing about. But my knowledge is growing slowly, and I really appreciate the time and the effort you put into your writing and to your tweets. They have been very useful to me. Thank you.
All right, excellent. I'm glad to hear that. So I'm trying to get the next Kung Fu discussion group episode to be a little more in depth on the internal stuff. That's been a very popular topic. I've got a lot of questions about that, so I'm looking to get episode 10 to be kind of go deeper into the energetic aspects. So
yes,
excellent. Well,
excellent. Thank you, sir.
So for Crossing Hands, I am your Uncle Sickness. With me is Magister. Build up your Kung Fu, everybody.
All right. Thank you.
Stupid? No good? With no talent? You shouldn't talk like that. We can fix your problem very quickly.